Hello and welcome to an edition of Chi, the Contemporary History Intervention, that will be a bit different from the previous videos that you've seen for reasons that require no elaboration. On the 9th of April, His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh passed away at the age of 99 years. We are in a period of national mourning. There is a time for critical history, but maybe it's not a time of national mourning. So this will be my personal tribute to Prince Philip. When I wrote this tribute, I encountered two challenges. One is that I was wondering, well, is there anything that is left to say about Prince Philip? You all know him, and if you didn't, you had plenty of refreshers over the last few days in the media. Prince Philip was married to Her Majesty the Queen for 73 years. He was the Queen's strength and stay, in her own words. He was the longest-serving royal consort in British history. He was a modernizer who helped the royal family to make its way into the 21st century. A family man, an intellectual man who had a broad range of interests, a man with a personal library that included more than 11,000 books. Yes, historians judge people by the libraries that they have. And he was a patron of many organizations and causes. As an environment historian, I should specify his work for the World Wildlife Fund. He was first president of the UK branch and then president of World Wildlife Fund International. So is there anything left to say here? There's a second complication in play here. I'm not a British citizen. I'm one of those EU migrants that, come to this country and take away British jobs. But here I am, born and raised in Germany. But then I realized, well, Prince Philip wasn't born in this country either. He was born on the Greek island of Corfu. So we have another migrant here who ended up on the British Isles. And I'll put that at the center of this tribute and talk a little bit about the migration background of Prince Philip. And I'll ask that question that every migrant knows: where does he come from? Well, Prince Philip talked about this himself. He once described himself as, and I quote, "a discredited Balkan prince of no particular merit or distinction." That's the self-description of a member of the Greek royal family. Prince Philip was the grandson of the King George I. His successor, Constantine I, was his uncle. That's how he described it. A discredited Balkan prince of no particular merit or distinction. That's the kind of candor that we, at least I, appreciate about Prince Philip. And I think we historians should honor this candor in our own assessment, and we should speak out and say that this assessment is by all means adequate. The Balkan is full of princes, royals with dubious standing and equally dubious merits, and even there, Greece may be a special chapter. Being king of Greece is one of the crappiest jobs that was available to nobilities in Europe. When you talk about nobility, you need to be clear about which house they come from. Prince Philip comes from the house of Schleswig-Holstein, Sonderburg, Glücksburg. Sonderburg is an island that is nowadays part of Denmark. I checked on the map, that's nowhere close to Corfu. It takes 29 hours by car nowadays to go from Sonderburg to Corfu, more than 2,000 kilometers. Why does somebody from the house of Schleswig-Holstein, Sonderburg, Glücksburg end up in Greece? Well, the answer is simply that is the default approach of the European powers when it comes to newly independent states in the Balkans. Whenever a nation or something that thinks it is a nation becomes independent in the Balkans, the European powers settle on someone who is then parachuted in and arrives in that country and says, "Hello, my name is blank and I will be your king from nowadays. Where's my castle?" To the best of my knowledge, the last individual who was part of this ambiguous tradition was the Duke of Spoleto, the member of the House of Savoy, who becomes Tomislav II of Croatia in 1941 by virtue of fascist Italy. You might wonder, well, why does anyone become king of Croatia in 1941? At that time, Croatia is effectively under the control of Nazi Germany and fascist Italy. If there is a ruler in Croatia, it's certainly not the king of Croatia, it's Ante Pavelic and his notorious Ustasha militias. So what do you do if you become king of Croatia in 1941? Well, one thing you do is never enter the country. Tomislav II never makes it to Croatia until he abdicates in the summer of 1943. So against that background, I think you can say it is one achievement of the kings of Greece. They actually made it to that country. The story of the royal family in Greece doesn't actually start with Schleswig-Holstein, Sonderburg, Glücksburg. It starts with the Bavarian house of Wittelsbach. Otto I becomes king of Greece in 1832, and he tries to run the country in the manner of absolutism. Well, you can see the success of this project in that 12 years into his reign. Greece enacted the Constitution of 1844, which included universal male suffrage. Just as I said, that is 1844 in Greece. That's when Greece obtains universal male suffrage. In Britain, this was not achieved, as you will know, until 1918. That's one of the advantages of importing royals from abroad. You don't have any domestic nobility that can ask any silly questions about, out in the countryside, should you really grant suffrage to every male subject? Now, this Constitution of 1844 is the result of a coup against Otto I. Otto is allowed to continue his reign under the new constitution until another coup actually pushes him out of office. His successor, George I, is then from the house of Schleswig-Holstein, Sonderburg, Glücksburg. He ends up being assassinated. His successor is Constantine I, whose main achievement is dividing the country during the First World War. There are countries in the First World War that side with Germany, there are countries that side with the Entente, and there is Greece that sides with both sides. There is the northern part of Greece that sides with the Entente under Prime Minister Venizelos, and there is the southern half which sides with Constantine I, who is more pro-German. He is an honorary field marshal of the German army, and he is married to a sister of Kaiser William the Second. That's where the historian says congratulations. It ends as the rest of the First World War ends. Constantine is pushed into exile in 1917. His son takes over. His name is Alexander. Now, if you become king of Greece and your name is Alexander, that sounds very promising. It doesn't really end up that way. Alexander, king of Greece, dies in 1920 from blood poisoning obtained from a bite of a monkey. These are the things that you really can't make up. But he actually died from a monkey bite, and I think we should see it as an underrated achievement of Prince Philip that he never died, to the best of my knowledge, from a bite of a monkey. Now, we have two more kings of Greece until 1924, when Greece ditches monarchy, becomes a republic. Monarchy returns to Greece in 1935. But King George II spends half of his reign in exile due to the Second World War. There were a few more coups and attempts thereof in the post-war years. I should maybe say here that I don't think there was ever a real risk for Prince Philip to become a king of Greece. Of course, if you're a member of the Greek royal family, that's just one of the risks you take. But the Greece, for all the turbulent history of royalty in Greece, the Greeks are pretty good at recycling their kings. Well, they are until 1973, when they finally ditch monarchy and become a republic. I think the lesson is clear here. If you want to establish a stable dynasty in Greece, don't try to become king. Go into party politics, where these family networks are actually really, really stable. And you can see the consequences of this turbulent royal history to the present day, because one of the consequences of this switch between monarchy and republic, this back and forth, is that the authority of the Greek state is notoriously weak to the present day. And one of the challenges for politicians in Greece is, how do you buy loyalty for the Greek state? Well, one of the ways in which loyalty has been brought is, to buy it in the most literal sense, by putting people on the public payroll. That is one of the reasons why Greece has this bloated bureaucracy that creates problems to the present day. But then, what does this story say about Prince Philip? Well, I guess it depends on what you think about migrants. if you think that migrants should stay in the place where they were born and work to make that a better place rather than go to a place with greater job security like Britain, or if you think that migrants take away British jobs, well, I think this is one such person. Prince Philip took a job that could have been done by someone in Britain, and he kept that job for 73 years. But maybe at this time, and in light of Prince Philip's achievements, it's time for a different view from a migrant's perspective. If you know the world that Prince Philip grew up in, it is no small achievement to be a member of a royal family and to be that for decades without interruption and to die peacefully in your bed. So, against this background, and maybe on behalf of many EU migrants in this country, thank you, Prince Philip, for your service.